Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! INDY!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Renew now, drives in low, throws up a shot. It doesn't go. Tipped up and in by Anthony Leal. Indiana takes the lead.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. Everybody is so happy to have you along here on this Thursday. Jim Coyle with you, Indiana Sports Beat. Coming at you with a loaded schedule today. Shannon and Griffith will join us. Bob Kravitz, as usual, the usual suspect. Greg will be joining us today instead of Monday. He's normally with us on Monday. Could not make it, so he's on today. We've also got recent IU football commitment. Baylor Wilkin joining us also, and plenty to talk about as well. The Fever played last night in a game, and I was watching it, and I'm watching Caitlin Clark, and she's going to go through – this year is going to be a great learning experience for her, but I have to – and I look forward to asking this to Bob Kravitz, but I wonder right now, how is she not the MVP of the league? And I say that knowing that is not going to happen. That would not happen right now. A couple of reasons. Number one, she's on a losing team, but she also leads the league in turnovers, I think. But I don't know what her final stats were last night, but she had like 26 points and I think 19 assists. She set a new WNBA record for assists as a rookie. There you go. Philip pointing it out. 19 assists, yeah. And watching every time she comes down the floor with the ball is a chance that her team is going to score. And I don't know how many of those 19 were 3-point baskets. I'm not saying a lot of them were. I know one of them was because it was towards the end, but I'm just at just 2 points each. That's 38 points. And if you add that to the, I think, 24 points that she scored, that's 62 points that she was directly responsible for out of the roughly 90 something that they scored. So she is directly responsible for 2/3 of their scoring, period. 2/3 of their scoring. That's what an MVP is supposed to be. The most valuable. She is the most valuable player to the Indiana Fever. That I don't think there's a player in the league that is more valuable to their team than she is. And this is not something I normally talk about, but I was watching the game happened to be on, so I was watching it and saw that. So I'll talk to Bob about that. And then when that was over, an NBA Summer League game came on, so I was watching the beginning of that. It was the Lakers and Atlanta, I believe. But you had all kinds of things going on there. You had Bronny James playing, which he hit his first 3-pointer after going, I think, 0 for 16. But what stood out, Sean East II from New Albany, Indiana. The guy that has always been the long shot. He was a star on New Albany's team when he and Romeo Langford won a state championship. But he was always in the shadow of Romeo. And when Romeo was being courted by everyone, Sean East was battling to find a spot to play in college, which he did. He continued to battle. He ended up finally at Missouri. I mean, he had to go to the JUCO route. He was small, but he battled, ended up at Missouri, battled. Now he's playing on the Los Angeles Lakers Summer League team. Not only that, but he stands out. At least he did last night. You could tell he's playing point guard, and he was, to me, their best player watching them play last night. And he's getting a legit shot. How realistic is it that he can make their roster? Probably not very good, since they've already given a damn roster spot to Bronny James. So that kind of cuts it down as to the availability there. But Sean East is looking good. I just have to say that. Kid from New Albany, always, like I said, always the long shot. But man, you want to talk about a true fighter's story, underdog story. If he were to make it in the NBA, that would be it. He could not get a college coach to look at him to save his life. But I understand, because I remember talking about it at the time. He was really small. He's still not what you would call big, but he's pretty lightning quick. He's pointing out Armand Franklin playing Summer League too. Who's he with? We'll have to see who he's with. But Miller Kopp also playing Summer League. Mike Woodson was out in Las Vegas checking on those guys. So it was entertaining watching all of that and watching that unfold. It's going to be, I'm curious as to what will happen to Sean East, just out of curiosity, because he is one of the better players that the Lakers have on their Summer League roster, but he's not going to get that shot again because Bronny James already has a $7.9 million, in essence, guaranteed contract, a roster spot that his father, so of course, had nothing to do with. I saw a statement yesterday that Bronny James would not start for UConn and would see very, very few minutes. That's a telling sign. But I can't say that it's not right. Saw yesterday that the guys from Field of 68, Rob Doster, they were talking about Indiana, and they believe that Indiana has the most talent in all of the Big Ten. And I do not think that that is wrong. They're curious to see can Mike Woodson win with this talent? Ant Wright was with him, and he says he believes that he can, because last year was a crap roster and they won 19 games. So that should not be a problem this year, that every need was addressed, whether it was guards or Ballo and Goody. You've got Fort Carlisle, and Rice, who have just really added to what Indiana needed. And Rice should challenge Braden Smith as the top point guard in the Big Ten. So it sounds great for Indiana fans. Hopefully it stays that way, and hopefully it gets to be that way. And we'll get to see whether or not, but it could be a good year for Indiana fans. Again, I don't want to put the cart before the horse, especially when that involves football. But I had someone reach out to me yesterday saying, "Hey, I can't believe how positive you have been on IU football." I'm like, "Hey, what's there not to be positive about? If I say it, I believe it. I say, but I believe." People think, "Oh man, he's negative." No, I'm just blunt and honest. But if it's good, I'm going to say it's good. I think I have high expectations. I shouldn't say that for Indiana football this year, but I have high confidence in their ability to do well. How's that? I have high confidence in Indiana having a successful year. So there's no reason not to say that. There's many, many reasons why. You can go to thehoosier.com and you can find all of the player position profiles. You can find individual profiles, opponents profiles that Indiana would be playing. All of that available at thehoosier.com. But the running backs room, there's a piece up right now about how, the depth of that, or it's coming up. So all kinds of info to get to. We've got lots to get to as well. Shannon Griffith is going to join us first here on this beautiful Thursday. And I mean beautiful Chamber of Commerce weather, people. I could tell. Last night, I'm like, man, this is unbelievably nice. And it is. I think like a high of 70 something today. This is July, right, John? I mean, this is July.
It is, and I'm not going to take this for granted. It's beautiful weather because the heat will be back before long.
Oh, of course, no doubt about that. But yeah, today's high expected to be 79, but still, come on, in the 70s in July. Wow. Tomorrow, 81, at least in central Indiana. So actually, it doesn't get above 85 all week till next Wednesday. Not that we're here to give a weather update, but that's fantastic news, people. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the great folks over at the Rusty Gator, where oceanic flavors meet southern charm. Nestled in the heart of Bedford, their seafood restaurant is a haven for those who crave the freshest catches in the sea in a laid-back and inviting atmosphere. They also have live music each and every weekend, and you can check out that schedule. Just go to therustygator.com. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market?
I saw Shannon in the green room a moment ago, but he dropped down. All right, I'm going to go grab my coffee. I'll be right back. All right. Let's check on the hotline. I haven't looked at the comments section yet this morning. We go and bring on Mr. Griff. Good morning, Shannon.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir. I can hear you just fine.
Perfect.
Where are you joining us from this lovely morning?
I'm on my way to Indy.
Oh, okay.
And hold on here. I'm going to see if I can get you on my Bluetooth.
Okay. Got about 30 seconds, Jim. You got me? You got us, Shannon, still?
Yeah, hold on for once. Okay. I don't think it's going to work. I had to pull it on my speaker. So
Okay.
all good.
Yeah, you still sound good.
Perfect.
All right, here we go. Jim, here we go.
Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Thursday. I hope you're having a great day, no matter where you are or how you're listening. We appreciate you greatly. Brought to you by our good friend Cheryl Sizemore and Remax Realty. For those in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Welcome aboard, our good friend Shannon Griffith. Shannon, how's it going?
Good, my man. Little travel day down to Indy. So heading down there bright and early.
Well, that'll be happening about a week from today again, as next week Big Ten Media Day is going on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at Lucas Oil Stadium. So get used to it.
Well, I'll be down there. They let me in, so I'll just make sure I have my phone set to the no notifications or audio set to mute.
Yeah, we'll be coming to you, of course, from Lucas Oil Stadium next week. Shannon Griffith will be there with us as well. And we'll hopefully have Kurt Signetti and the usual, as we have brought to you for years and years. But also on today, Shannon, is Baylor Wilkin, one of Indiana's recent commitments, I should say. Offensive lineman from Ohio, but just continues to show that they're filling in all the holes, man. They're not going after just one area, this area. They've been very, very good about bringing guys in from on the defensive side or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think they've done really good with the high school recruits because it's still a major part of building your program with young talent. And I think if you looked at the recruiting class as of today, you would say that they've pretty much covered all their bases that they need to cover. And hopefully they'll get 1 or 2 more in the hopper prior to the season starts. But right now, the talent level that they've got on paper looks like a pretty good class for Indiana.
And it really seems to be for a new team, a new staff. I'm a little surprised on how well they've done in a brand new state for these guys, because these guys don't have contacts. I mean, 90% of them don't have strong Indiana contacts per se.
Well, the best thing about it is you have a couple guys on staff that have been at Indiana before. They were there as grad assistants, one of them being Brian Haynes, who has had contacts within the state of Indiana and, of course, his home state of Ohio, which I'm sure they've, leaned on those guys quite a lot here just for the introducing process, especially with Coach Signetti. Being that this is his first time within the Midwest in terms of recruiting and such. So, but outside of those 2 gentlemen, you're correct. I mean, they have a lot of guys that don't have the necessary contacts per se, just right here in the state of Indiana, let alone in that 3-hour radius.
Yeah, and there's plenty of talent around. Not that Indiana is a state that is one of the top producers of football talent, but it has its share. We've talked before about how if you looked at the top 10, they're going elsewhere to other schools. So making a dent in that is going to be very, very important right now. I think Purdue definitely leads still between the two is doing, I don't want to say a better job, but a little more successful in-state job at the moment, which is obvious because Purdue has had success of any kind more recently than Indiana has, really.
Well, and they've got an extra year under their belt recruiting Coach Walters and his staff when it comes to maybe the in-state talent goes. But, high school football in the state of Indiana has drastically improved over the last 10 years or so with the number of Power 5 talented kids within the state. And you're correct. Those have been the ones that have normally gotten away from the likes of Indiana. But I do think if they can get themselves in a great position and things on the field go the way that they hope they will or what they expect will, then I do think they'll have a chance to keep some of these talented kids right here in the state of Indiana. But it's always going to be a battle when you're going up against the traditional powerhouses from outside of the state. But as soon as Indiana can get some things under them, get some wins under their belt, and then try to impact the recruiting within their own state, I do think they will have their opportunities to keep a couple kids at home.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, that's something that I expect to change without question, because recruiting also involves relationships, and some of those are established. So, like you said, being new, a lot of these relationships had already started before Kurt Signetti and crew got to Indiana. So we'll see how that works out. Now, Kurt Signetti preparing for his first Big Ten Media Days next week. It'll be the first one for a lot of guys, a lot, and not just for the 4 new teams that are coming in, but man, I just looked across Indiana's schedule at teams that have new coaches, and there's 5 right there alone. So I haven't even looked at the remainder of the conference to see how many other new coaches there are. But there are going to be a lot of guys speaking next week at Lucas Oil Stadium that are doing so for the first time as a member of the Big Ten Conference.
Yeah, and, when you look at it, the elder statesmen now, I guess you could say, are Franklin out at Penn State and Day at Ohio State, just to name a couple off the top of my head. But there are a lot of new coaches within the Big Ten. It should be an interesting media day. I think there are some characters that will ultimately see their personalities from behind the microphone. But it's going to be interesting from the standpoint of adding these new schools and having those schools at the podium. Like Coach Riley from USC and Lanning from Oregon, talk about how they view coming into the Big Ten, and are they anticipating a different brand of football now that the Pac-12 is no longer in existence, and now they have to go up against the Penn States, the Michigans, Ohio States week in and week out, whether or not that's going to be something that they're ready for.
And, I was just thinking about something, and that is that this will be the first time in almost not quite a decade, but 8 years that the Big Ten Media Days will be happening without a Jim Harbaugh, Ryan Day tone, because no matter what was going on, whether Michigan was coming off of a bad season or a great one, that didn't matter. It was always, what was Ryan Day going to say about Michigan? What was Jim Harbaugh going to say about Ohio State? And that was one of the fun things we look forward to, because speaking of characters, there's one for you right there. So who are some of the new characters that are coming in that can fill that role?
Well, I do believe we have the main character, hashtag Google me, coming in with Indiana and his chance before the Big Ten, and he may have to answer for some of the comments made by Ohio about Ohio State, Purdue, and Michigan by those coaches per se. But, I'm interested to hear from Dan Lanning because I think he can be an interesting dynamic. Of course, Riley at USC and his persona. He's a guy that probably is on the proverbial hot seat this year, entering the Big Ten for the first year. So it'll be interesting. Like you said, there's always that one or two headlines that come out of a media day. I've watched the SEC media day this week on ESPN, and of course, it's not been as fruitful as it once was, being that Kiffin came to the media days with a little bit of somnolence because of losing his father, Monte, not a week ago. But I think you're right. There'll be somebody that'll step up, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Ryan Day takes a shot at Michigan, but I'm not sure how big a shot since he hasn't beaten them in the last 2 years.
And happy to have Mr. Linnell Carr along. His son is number 41 on the Indiana roster, defensive lineman. That's one of the senior. That's one of the guys that Indiana is going to rely on because I don't think offense is going to be a problem for Indiana. And looking over there, I was doing something for the running backs last night, and their running backs room is solid. Not only is it solid, it's got depth to it. But Curt Cignetti's offense is not one that is based on the running game. They're not going to pretend to be a running team. They're not going to say they're a running team because it's probably going to be impossible since last year they threw for over 3,700 yards. His top running back at JMU rushed for just over 600 yards. There's which is Galen Black, and then Tyson, he was right behind him at over 500 yards. So between the two of them, they combined for over 1,000, but only 6 touchdowns between those two. And they had the ball in their hands a lot. So that tells me that even when Curt Cignetti gets close to the end zone, he's not likely or as likely to run the ball as he is to throw it.
Yeah, that's one thing you can conclude from that, statistical analysis. But the other thing that probably would have to take in account would be the fact that they probably had a lot of explosive play type touchdowns as well last year at JMU, which Indiana will need to continue this year. If there's been one thing that has hampered Indiana's offense, has been a consistent explosive plays in games where they need to get the big play, and they sure do have a stable of guys on the outside that
Griff
by committee because.
Go ahead, brother. I thought we lost you there for a second. Oh, well. Yeah, we're getting him better in tune. But, that's exactly that. It's a key word, committee. I think that the running backs room is going to be one that is achieved via committee because not only do you have those two guys that are coming in from JMU, that came in from JMU, but you've got transfers that came in from North Carolina, from Wake Forest. There's only one freshman on the roster. So Indiana pretty loaded with experienced guys in the backfield. And you're loaded at, I shouldn't say loaded, but you're solid at quarterback. They've got the best receiving core in the Big Ten. So offense, it's just not going to be, I don't see offense being a problem for Indiana. I really don't. You've got an experienced, mature quarterback, and he is surrounded by a lot of good pieces. As long as that line can keep him off of him, let him throw the ball and open up a few holes. I think the fact that Indiana is going to be a passing team, that their running game is going to be very complimentary. And that's what Cignetti has done in the past. It looks, when you have two guys, when you have as many yards as they accounted for on offense, but it comes mostly through the air. Let's be sure that I don't see that will change. I don't expect that to change. I think that this Indiana offense is going to be one that is quick hitting and dangerous, because it will probably be able to score at any time. And by that, I mean, any play is a potential breakout. We saw some of that in the spring game. And that will be a little different when you're going up against the remainder of the Big Ten. But I also think that as each week goes by, you see teams just get better and better. If Indiana has the offense on the field that they have on paper, this is going to be a fun season for Indiana football fans, and one that they've waited for a long time, not because this season's record will be a record breaker necessarily, but just because everything that they will do will be because of coaching, players, of it being done correctly, and with a hope for the future that it's going to be even better, or that becomes the norm. What the hell would people do if going to a bowl game became the norm for Indiana? That's something to look forward to in the future. But
I tell you what would. I have a quick response to that. As someone who lives or is closely associated with the Louisville and Kentucky programs as well with my other job, now that Kentucky's kind of become the program that has consistently gone to bowl games, the next step after that is that expectations raise. You no longer are satisfied with just being 6-6 and going to a bowl game, whereas most fans throughout the entirety of their lives, that's been the level of satisfaction that they are okay with the Indiana football program. And if Kurt Cignetti is able to raise those expectations on a consistent basis, then 6-6 will no longer be the bare minimum that Indiana fans desire. They'll want 8-win seasons, even more than that on certain years. And really, I think what Indiana aspires to be, or should have always aspired to be in the past, is kind of that Iowa football style. And I'm not talking about the non-offense style of football, but they're always one of the most consistent teams in the Big Ten, even though they're not ever losers. I feel like they're the textbook definition of your middle tier team.
Even when they suck, they still win.
Exactly.
Last year, when it was watching them last year was torture. I mean, if you're an Iowa fan, it had to be torture watching them last year. They couldn't score against a elementary school team. It seemed like. I mean, they were that bad.
And they still won. I think they were 8-4, maybe even 9-3. I don't know that off the top of my head, but they had a good season. And yes, they played in the Big Ten West. I know that we always, have knocked that side of the conference, and rightfully so most of the time. But hey, they have a blueprint. Indiana's trying to create their own, and we'll see if Kurt Cignetti can lay the foundation for that this year.
I hear you there. Indianapolis Mayor Joe Hogsett will attend Major League Soccer's All-Star Week celebration over in Columbus, Ohio. And that starts on Sunday. And that is amid an Indianapolis citywide-led effort to bring a franchise to Indianapolis. And they are making that step as they try to bring in a major league team, as there are plans on the table for a new stadium, but that's not going to happen until they get the franchise. And for once, that's a city doing something right. Normally you see, we're building a stadium and we're hoping to get an NBA team or whatever it is. It's like, no, we're not going to build a stadium unless we get the team, which is, why would you? Because this is a specialized soccer stadium. You already have one where they play. Where do the Indy 11 play? They don't play at the baseball field, do they?
I believe they have their own small stadium. I don't know.
I thought so. I think they do. I thought they did too. I don't think it's as nice as that one down there in Louisville.
Yeah, it's not like Lynn Family Stadium. That place,
but that's a brand new one as well. We've got to
take a break
for
a few years.
Lots more coming up. Bob Kravitz will join us. We'll talk about Caitlin Clark's big-time night, what's coming up with the Colts. I know he's got a piece out right now and imploring them that they should make a run after a wide receiver to add that to Mr. Pittman to bookend him, and plenty more from BobKravitz.com. Brought to you by the Ugly Grouper, the place to be down on Anna Maria Island, Florida, whether you're in the area already or will be traveling down, as many of our Hoosier fans do from up this way, to stop in. It is, they've got your favorite craft beers, so they've got Bob already. Cocktails, live music, fresh catch of the day, locally sourced seafood, incredible food. It is the place to be on Anna Maria Island, Florida. Tell them we sent you. Just go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. Back with our man Bob after this. What about Bob?
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for a home, did you ever see that movie? What about Bob?
Oh, absolutely. Richard Dreyfuss. That was a great movie.
Bill Murray.
Bill Murray. What about Baby Steps, Bob? Baby Steps.
Oh my God. I swear I love Bill Murray. I think he is just freaking hilarious.
Yeah. Hey, are we audio only today?
No, that was just one of our guests. I think he hit reply all.
Oh, okay.
He didn't have his video on.
Gotcha. Okay. I was a little confused.
Oh, I didn't. I thought that he had hit reply all, but I wasn't too sure. I saw you replied too. I wasn't sure if you were just saying okay to the link or to something he said, but yeah, now that makes more sense.
Yeah. Not a problem.
All right, Bob, I'm going to pose this early, so just so you got this is not time to prepare, but earlier I said that right now, how is Caitlin Clark not the MVP of the WNBA other than the fact that she leads the league in turnovers? I said, but there is no other player in that league that is more valuable to her team than Caitlin Clark is to hers. But not only that, she's going to obliterate the assist record in the WNBA. I don't even know what it is. I don't know who holds it.
Aja Wilson from Las Vegas.
She's still playing, right?
Yes. Yeah. You're saying who's more of an MVP candidate? I'm saying Aja Wilson.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant the assist deal.
No. Oh, that's a good talker.
Yeah. But she's going to obliterate the assist record.
Oh,
I would. I mean,
yeah, and the turnover record.
Well, she'll get that under control. She's like a major leaguer who is still finding her way and strikes out a bunch early. But and I've not been this big. I'm not been waving the big Caitlin Clark pom-poms, but I was watching the game last night.
Yeah,
and I'm like, damn it, buddy. If you're on defense and she's coming up the floor, you better have your head on a swivel because she is going to find somebody and she'll find them quickly to score.
Yeah, she's freaking amazing.
All right, here we go, guys.
Okay.
2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment free for 90 days, or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Freethink Apparel. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Thursday. I appreciate you being with us as always. Brought to you by our friends over at Freethink Printing and Apparel. No matter what your needs are, Freethink has you taken care of and will take care of your printing needs. Their team of industry experts work with you to design a professional-looking, sales-generating web store for your custom-designed apparel or promotional merchandise. Just go to freethinkapparel.com and get printing today. Bob Kravitz from BobKravitz.com joins us now, and it is the time of year, Bob, where you write about a little bit about everything because we've got a little bit of everything going on right now. We're on the precipice of football season starting. Big Ten Media Days next week. Of course, NFL camps will be opening up as well. We've still got some basketball happening. The TBT begins tomorrow night.
Yes.
With Indiana and Purdue's teams not playing each other, but playing Butler playing. So we've got that going for us, which is nice. Also, NASCAR in town at Indianapolis, which is a huge deal, a cup race, not only because it's a NASCAR cup race, but they're returning to the oval, which they have been off of for a few years. So that's going to be cool. Bob, a great story, not to tell you what to do, but Chase Briscoe.
Yeah, you told me the other day. Yeah, the local
that's somebody for you to dive into because he's raced for Tony Stewart Haas for the last 3 years, I think. And now that Stewart Haas is going to be no more, he has a new ride over with Joe Gibbs Racing, who you want to talk about an amazing dude is Joe Gibbs, because he went from being an uber successful NFL football coach, which first and foremost, that in and of itself is hard to do. He's in a special class in that category. Now let me go over to NASCAR. And now he's he's had the success in NASCAR that he had in football. And I'm like, well, what the hell does he know about racing? I mean, not now, but then. And his teams, it's like he runs them like a football coach, I guess, because that just shows you great leadership.
Leadership, exactly. I'm really curious to see them go back to the oval because the racing on the oval was atrocious. I mean, for years,
tire issues.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. There's just very little passing. Those cars are so big and clunky that on this particular kind of racetrack, it just isn't set up well for the NASCAR. So I'll be curious to see how they maybe try to juice the oval. I don't know what they can do or what they will do, but I know that when they were still on the oval, it was just a parade, basically, around the track. It was not good stuff. So we'll see.
The year not that long ago, a few years back, when it was just a horrific race where the tires the tires were just blowing out. They couldn't do anything. It's like, what the hell? I don't even understand how that happens. I don't know if it was the heat from the track, if it was the surface from the track, or the Indianapolis. If you're not familiar with racetracks, this on the NASCAR circuit, especially, these tracks are all different, man. They come in all different shapes and sizes. Even the 1.5 mile tracks, they all have their idiosyncrasies and differences. Some are wider at one end than they are the other. For Indianapolis, it's banking. There's only 9 degrees of banking in the turns, where at Talladega, you're at like 28 degrees of banking.
It's amazing.
Huge difference. But for the Indy cars, they have tons more downforce, which keep those cars tethered to the ground. And the NASCARs are not quite that. But with the new next gen car, I am also curious to see what this is going to be like and what the racing will be like, because you have to have good racing. If not, it just sucks.
Right. It's funny. When I remember when I came here in 2000, the Brickyard was almost outdrawing the Indy 500. I mean, it was incredibly well attended, and just year over year, it's diminished because the racing just wasn't that good. And I think NASCAR, like all racing, it's just kind of hit a wall a little bit. It's not what it used to be. How they bring that back, I leave that to smarter people than me.
I will say that
Uh,
last week they were at Pocono Speedway up in
Pennsylvania.
Long Pond, Pennsylvania, and it was sold out. And
Yeah.
you want to talk about a unique track. That is one of the most unique tracks. It's not an oval, it's not a tri-oval. I don't know what you call it. It's a triangle is what it is. It has 3 long straightaways of different length, which is very, very different. But that place was sold out. So I'm wondering if the next gen car, you've got a newer age of drivers coming up, but I wonder if people are starting to warm up to them. Guys like Chase Briscoe,
Right.
like Joe Gibbs' grandson, Ty Gibbs. A lot of these younger guys, but Chase Briscoe is something. It's a great story because his grandfather, and I will talk to him about that, owned a race team and still does the sprinters, the little sprint cars. His father won hundreds of races as a driver for his dad, and then Chase drove that car for a while. But they've had some famous names in there. The Kinsers from Bloomington, of course, the king of the sprint cars. I mean, I don't know that people understand. Indiana is also steeped in auto racing.
Oh, absolutely.
Big time. I know the Indy 500, but I'm talking about drivers, man. And Chase Briscoe. Well, now we go backwards. Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon, just that had success in NASCAR. There's a kid up, the dude that went to Purdue, another kid from up in Northern. Yeah, Newen. Well, look at you pulling a NASCAR name out. Yeah,
right out of my hat.
But Indiana has been a long part of that. Like a lot of these Midwestern states, Ohio, they have these dirt tracks everywhere, and great fun. And speaking of that, Friday night in Bloomington on their track, Chase Briscoe will be there racing his grandfather's car, I believe.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
I think that's still the case.
Okay. I'll have to jump into that. I don't have credentials to the race right now, but maybe I can pull something out of my hat.
I'm sure the folks there at the communication department at IMS, first of all, are absolutely incredible. And that starts with Dave First, the vice president of communications, and on down. They do an outstanding job of trying to. That's another thing. The Indianapolis, at least for the 500, the access is unprecedented.
Yeah.
Not only the access, but the length of access. You're literally, if you're there covering it, you're on the track with the drivers and the cars right up until it's time to kick it off.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And
it's like being on a floor during a shoot around.
When I was with the Athletic, they had me do a lot of long stories on the 500. And I mean, you just go to their garage and, I did a piece on Robert Wickens, who, tragically got in a terrible crash. I mean, I spent 45 minutes in his garage. I talked to everybody around him. I had just phenomenal access. You deal with the PR directors who handle these individual drivers, and they, like Rossi. I did a big piece on Rossi a couple of years ago when I had a real job, and we went out to a bourbon bar for 2.5 hours and just hung out and knocked back a few bourbons and had a great conversation. And racing, even though racing is not in my blood, I'll be the first to admit it. Being a New York kid, it's just not a big thing back east. I really enjoy the weeks leading up to the Indianapolis 500 because of the access and the stories. The stories are just phenomenal.
And the drivers they're equal to that.
They're great. They're great.
They are incredible and I would think that the IndyCar drivers would be a little bit more standoffish than say NASCAR guys. I think it might be a little different because I'm not sure. I have not actually covered NASCAR from a media standpoint. This will be my first for that this weekend, but it's going to be interesting for me to see the interaction between the drivers. If NASCAR drivers have been too insulated, you can tell when athletes are just too insulated. They take on that mentality.
Yeah, no, I've had nothing but good experiences with drivers, whether it be IndyCar or NASCAR.
Yeah, you should come out Friday night to Bloomington, man. Join me there in the pits. It'll be a cool experience.
There would be.
Also, I'm sure. How's the golf going?
How's it going? Golf?
Yeah.
I'm in a little bit of a slump. I'm having a hard time breaking 90, Jim.
Oh, you know what? I played yesterday for the first time in probably 2 weeks. 91.
That's what I shot yesterday. 91.
Over BCC, a little mad because I should have broken 90. There was a par 3 on number 7, and it got me for 6.
Ooh.
I mean,
that's hard.
It just yes, especially when you're 25 yards from the pin and you skull it.
Well, I had no chance to break 90 because I made par on my last 2 holes just to get to 91. So I pulled it out of the fire a little bit.
You've got a piece out right now at bobkravitz.com involving the Colts and what they need to do or suggesting what possibly they might do offensively, and adding a book into Michael Pittman Jr. on the receiving end for Mr. Anthony Richardson is something that you are a big proponent of. Absolutely.
Brandon Ayuk is a guy who's caught over 70 passes for over 1,000 yards the last 2 years. His yards after catch are through the roof. He's 3rd in the league. It amazes me how brainwashed people in this city are. It makes me crazy. Well, it's going to cost too much. It's not your freaking money, man. It's the owner's money. Let them spend it. They've got Alec Pierce as their number 2 or 3. He hasn't proven squat. You've got A.D. Mitchell. Everybody thinks this A.D. Mitchell is going to be Jerry Rice. He was picked in the 2nd round, but he was the 7th wide receiver selected in the most recent draft. So, to think that he's a sure thing is fool's gold. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But, man, if you have a chance to get a close to elite receiver as your number 2 guy next to Michael Pittman, and surround him with Jonathan Taylor, with Anthony Richardson, man, you use that opportunity to upgrade. People are so afraid. The salary cap. They're 10th in the league in most money available under the cap, according to Over the Cap. So go ahead and do it. Take a damn risk once in a while, Chris Ballard. Just once.
Take a risk, man. Come on.
Take a big swing.
He takes a lot of heat, and I'm not saying it's not deserved, because there just hasn't. It just seems like they haven't made the big moves. I mean, getting Anthony Richardson was easy,
right? No, I mean
they had to take him in the draft.
They went and traded for DeForest Buckner many years ago. And that was a good move, but it just seems that Ballard is averse to spending money. And here's the thing: I don't know if the problem is that he doesn't want to spend the money, or if Irsay doesn't want to spend the money. I think it might be both a philosophical thing from Ballard, and it just happens to work with Irsay, who apparently would rather spend his money in other places. So, I remember back in the 2000s, Irsay would spend whatever it took. And really, with Grigson, he did the same thing. But in recent years, I think there's been a philosophical shift. Now, whether that's Irsay or Ballard or a combination of both, I don't know for sure.
What's up next at bobkravitz.com?
Well, I'm going to do a thing with Anthony Richardson today. I'm going to go out to the TBT tomorrow and check it out. I don't know if I'll be writing, but I'll see if there's anything worth writing. And maybe I'll go to the track on, was it Saturday or Sunday?
Both days, actually. Saturday is the Xfinity race and Sunday is the Cup race.
Cup race. Maybe on Sunday. We'll see. But yeah, I've got a few things coming along in the next couple of days on bobkravitz.com.
Can't wait. Look forward to it. Hope to see you up at the track.
All right. Sounds good, buddy.
bobkravitz.com. It's only $4 a month to be a subscriber.
$5.
Come on, man. Just let me make the mistake. It sounds better. That way you're not in trouble for it. I'm kidding. $5 a month. And I know everybody, because I'd love to see you guys subscribe to the Hoosier.com as well. And everybody's like, oh, everybody's hitting us up. But there are certain things that are worth your time and your content and your money. Bob Kravitz is definitely one of those. We appreciate you, my friend.
All right, buddy. Thanks so much.
We've got lots more coming up on this Thursday. Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Baylor Wilkin, one of Indiana's newest football commitments, will join us later. Up next, our friend Greg from the ISB Sports Network. Mr. Rakestraw will join us on the other side of this break.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
Good morning, Greg.
Goodbye, Greg.
You got us? Maybe he stepped away from where he's at.
Why is it on? No.
I can see you guys. I can't hear you guys. I'm trying to use a studio down at Emmis. I'm going to hang up on this and go to my phone because I can hear you. I can see you. I can't hear you.
The sound was wonderful.
I know. It sounded like he was. I mean, he said he was in a studio, so it's definitely a studio microphone.
Well, he's at MS Communication in Indianapolis.
There we go. You got us, Greg? Maybe not.
Do 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 do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So go to the settings at the bottom of the StreamYard screen. You'll see settings. Greg, if you're having issue, go in there and double check to make sure it's picking up what you're laying down.
Oh, hold on. He's trying to join with another. There we go. You got us, Greg?
Yeah, it helps when I pot up the right thing on the board. It's amazing how that happens.
There we go.
So you're not on the phone. You're on the production PC. So this makes John laugh. Jim has no idea what I'm talking about, but this will make John laugh.
Hey, man.
Wrong.
I was in front of the camera, not behind, man. I just did the talking, and somebody I don't know would talk into my ear. So yes, I have no idea what you're talking about.
John's laughing hysterically at this as dumb Alan has a moment. But I'm good now.
But I do know what IFB stands for, John. Do you?
IFB?
Yep.
Yes.
I don't think I know what that means. No. We got about 15 seconds, by the way.
Do you know what an IFB is?
I don't think so.
Earpiece.
Oh, yeah. I've never had to use one of those, actually.
It's the producer on their talent ear when you're on remote.
Here we go, guys.
Living.com. That's myStonecrestLiving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by the Fresh Fork in Bloomington. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Thursday. Beautiful Chamber of Commerce weather Thursday. Hope you're enjoying it or going to get to. It's going to be an absolutely stunning July day, and that is hard to believe, but we've got it brought to you by the Fresh Fork. Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle. The Fresh Fork chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. Order online and let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code radio20 and get $20 off of your first order. Joined now by our friend Greg Rakestraw from the ISB Sports Network. He is on location as well today. Greg, how are you, sir?
I am good, and I am talking to you from a radio station through a compressed microphone, the full studio. I'm kind of in the fan studios in downtown Indy today because I'm working ahead on some Brickyard weekend stuff. So I'm sure I sound amazing, but you'll be not exactly stunned to think about this. In a radio studio, they don't often equip the computers with cameras. And so that's why you can't see me, and I'm sure the entire viewing audience is appreciative of that. I'm sure that avatar is much better looking than normally looking at me when I come on the show, usually on Monday mornings.
No, because now they have no option other than to see me. So that's not a good route to go.
Now I realize I am the before picture and Jim is the after picture when we're doing this show. Now I get what my place on this show is for.
Oh, mercy. And you mentioned the Brickyard. I've been talking about that quite extensively today. Just had Bob Kravitz on and had a conversation with him about it. And earlier, Chase Briscoe will be on with us tomorrow.
Awesome.
And then he's going to be in Bloomington tomorrow night, racing at the Bloomington Speedway on the dirt, a dirt track that Chase has raced at before, but also where the king of sprint cars, Steve Kinzer, and the Kinzers raced. Jeff Gordon has raced. Tony Stewart has raced. And I don't know what others. Plenty have. But this is a big weekend for Indy. It's a big weekend for NASCAR because Bob was talking about it too. When he first went, he said it was huge. It was starting to rival Indy. And said, then boom, stuff happened, COVID, and then COVID happened after that. And NASCAR has been slowly to rebuild, I guess. But I mentioned last week at Pocono, that place was sold out, and that's a big track. So that is a positive thing.
It is, but it's a huge track, but there's not a lot of seats at Pocono. And that is the biggest race that goes to Pocono. And this is what is so unique about NASCAR coming here. It's the one venue they go to where it's not the biggest deal, where it is a secondary event. Now, Jim, to be blunt, there was a period of time in the late 90s, early 2000s, where frankly, the Brickyard 400 was a bigger deal than the Indianapolis 500. And frankly, as the Brickyard came in 94, 2 years later, the split happens between Indy Racing League and CART. The prestige of the 500 takes a dive for several years. NASCAR is on an absolute meteoric rise.
Dale Earnhardt was still around.
Yeah, and he won the second one back in 95. And that lasted for about a decade. Well, then the champ car drivers and teams all start coming back to the Indy Racing League, to the IndyCar Series, to the Indianapolis 500. Kind of the seminal moment in the downturn of NASCAR at the Motor Speedway. The crowds had started to drop a little bit, say by 2006 and on. In 2008, there was an absolute tire fiasco. And
has it been that long?
It's been that long.
Holy cow.
They could not run more than 10 or 11 laps at the track, and the attendance tanked from that point. NASCAR started to drop at that point. It wasn't that Indianapolis caused an entire series-wide, just kind of the way that they were both kind of going that direction. It completely fast-forwarded that at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I do think NASCAR as a series is on its way back up. I'm not sure if they will ever get back to what they were in the mid to late 90s, early 2000s. But what has happened in Indianapolis is that the IndyCar series has made slow gains, for the last 15, 20 years. But the Indianapolis 500, that has been the meteoric rise. With the celebration of the 2016 Centennial 500, that crowd was 350,000. The crowds have stayed in that vicinity for that race for the last 7 or 8 years. Crowds, and I'm using that term loosely, at a facility that holds 300,000 people, have really been in the 30, 40, 50, 60,000 range for the Brickyard. Part of the reason why they went to the road course the last 3 years is that that crowd doesn't look as bad. Frankly, the race is a little bit shorter, and with the configuration of car they have had, that race has been a little bit better. With this being the 30th, not anniversary, 30th year, it's actually the 31st time that NASCAR has run here, but 30 years ago, first Saturday in August, I want to say August 5th of 1994, was the first Brickyard 400 with Jeff Gordon winning the inaugural running of the Brickyard 400. So they wanted to go back to the Oval this year. Will that lead to better crowds? I don't know. Jim, what you talked about to start this segment, I think, is the biggest thing that this race has going for it. The weather forecast is tremendous all week long. Do I think that the Motor Speedway will have some walk-up business because people aren't going to bake in the sun? Yes, I think that will happen to a certain degree. So I'm hoping we see more folks out there on Sunday. But I can tell you, in terms of going out to the racetrack, and what I'm asked to do is completely different for Brickyard weekend compared to 500 weekend. But like for 500 weekend, I'm like, I need to get out there at like 5:30 in the morning to get my parking spot. When it comes to the NASCAR race, if the race is going to start at 2:30, I'm like, I'm going to go on the air at 1. As long as I get out there by noon, I will have no problem walking from my much worse parking spot for the NASCAR race as compared to getting into the track from my spot that's like 2 rows behind Mr. Penske in the Pagoda. It is such a different experience.
Yeah, it is. And it's sad because you just hate to see empty stadiums. That just stinks. Sure. But there's not a lot you can do when you're talking about a place that holds 350,000 because there's not another one on the planet Earth. So,
and Jimmy, from a NASCAR standpoint, because Daytona has reduced seats. Daytona from about 160 to about 100,000 seats. Bristol may be, because they have completely filled in the bowl all the way around. Bristol might be the most number of seats. And again, this is where I will say I pay enough attention to NASCAR to be dangerous, to talk about it intelligently on Brickyard weekend. And then once the Brickyard is over, I tend to check out. But much like there's no other place in the world like this from a seating standpoint, there's no other place in NASCAR. In other words, you could be half full at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and you may have the single biggest crowd in the NASCAR Cup Series for that year. But perception being reality, you see empty seats, you go, hey, what's wrong?
Yeah. How many seats does Indy have?
So they have never officially announced, but the general belief is 250,000. And then with infield seating and the people in the snake pit, you think that number could be the estimated number, I think, for this past year's race was 340,000 people.
Yeah, Bristol is not close to that. No. They're like 160, I think.
Correct. And I think because of seat reductions at Daytona, and because, Talladega is 2 2/3 miles, but there's not seats all the way around it. I think Bristol is the biggest other facility in terms of just seats, not distance, seats that NASCAR runs at now every year.
Yeah, and Bristol is one of the most popular stops because it's a gladiator stadium. It's a Coliseum. It's the last Coliseum.
And it's the thing that we've just grown accustomed to and are used to. In other words, like when you're in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, you can't see the entire track unless you are watching from a helicopter or you're watching from heaven because you've passed away. You can't see the facility all in. If you're lucky, if you can sit right on a turn, you can see them coming out of one turn, coming to your turn, and going into the other turn. That's as most of the track as you can see. The NASCAR folks are not used to that. They are used to be able to see an entire racetrack, and we're like, hey, sorry, guys, it's not the way it works here. Just again, one of the many differences in terms of the Indy 500 crowd and the NASCAR crowd that comes here for the Brickyard 400.
What are your duties, NASCAR duties this week at the IMS?
So I will be hosting all of the shoulder programming, so to speak, for 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. So I've got 90 minutes of action in between quals for the Cup guys on Saturday, and then for the Xfinity race. And then I will do an hour pre, an hour post around the PRN IMS radio network. So 1 to 2 and 6 to 7, basically, on Sunday afternoon.
I got to get involved in that, man. I love, I've been a NASCAR fan for a long time, not a gearhead crazy into that, but my family lives in Harrisburg, Concord, and Kannapolis, which are,
Right.
if familiar with the Charlotte Motor Speedway, people, it surrounds. Concord is where the Speedway actually is.
Right.
But it's basically a minute from Harrisburg, and Kannapolis is kind of out a little bit further, but that's the home of Dale Earnhardt Jr. and those guys. So it is certainly the hotbed of NASCAR. It's the home. It's like that. It's Nashville to country music. Charlotte is to NASCAR what Nashville is to country music.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, I'm the thing is that credentials are very easy to come by for the Brickyard 400. So I'm not sure you can get them now, 3 days out from the race, but in future years, I'm sure they would love to have Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the scene.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I covered Indy multiple times, but just haven't been able to make it work time-wise for NASCAR. And this year I am. And I was talking to Bob earlier. Chase Briscoe is going to be on with us tomorrow, in addition to Alan Bestwick, who, much like our friend Greg, is a long-time television analyst, play-by-play color guy for auto sports. He's worked for ESPN, NBC, but just a super great guy. I love talking to him. I had a chance to have a great conversation with him during Indy, and he's coming back to do more work. But he's a super, super down-to-earth, a really nice guy. And if you follow racing, you know who Alan Bestwick is. Correct.
And Alan and I are lucky enough. Alan does much more of this than I do, but I'm on the PA staff with Alan. And so I get to know Alan very well. And so Alan and I actually got to spend some good time together. When I was down in Greensboro, North Carolina, he was there for the NSMA weekend down at the Grand Over Resort. So, in fact, Alan and I taped a piece yesterday that will air at some point in time this weekend. I'm talking about his Brickyard memory, since, again, this is now going to be the 31st running of a NASCAR race, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We're celebrating 30 years of NASCAR coming to the city of Indianapolis.
And hopefully this will start to build back up. Chase Briscoe will also be in Bloomington tomorrow night, Greg, and yep. I am planning on going out there to see him after he's on the show tomorrow. But I'm going to go out there and watch him on the dirt. His grandfather, longtime car owner in that series, his dad won well over 200 races as a racer himself. So they're deep into racing. And Indiana, I was talking with Bob earlier. I said, dude, Indiana runs as deep as any state when it comes to racing and racing names. I mean, start with Chase Briscoe and go backwards to Tony Stewart and Jeff Gordon and the Kensers. And you've had, I can't think of his first name, Newman, that was from up towards, went to Purdue. And then I think Justin Haley, maybe, that's from Northern Indiana. And I'm sure I'm missing some.
Correct. So in the early days of the race here, yeah, obviously the timing would have been better. Jeff Gordon burst onto the scene right as NASCAR came to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. While Jeff is not from Indiana, Jeff's from California. Jeff moved to Indiana to run sprint cars at a younger age. So Jeff is a graduate of Tri-West High School, just outside of Indianapolis, just west of Brownsburg on I-74. He wins the first one. That's a big deal. You've got Tony Stewart, who is running in NASCAR by race number 5 or 6. That's a big deal. Took Ryan Newman about 15, 16 years in terms of into the race, not his career, to win in Indianapolis, being from South Bend, being a Purdue grad. Ryan never was the promoter, glib interviewee and Tony Stewart, can be great in interviews, didn't always want to be great in interviews, which made him a compelling story to some that direction as well. But Ryan winning here was a big deal. Obviously, Chase being a Southern Indiana guy, you reference Justin Haley, who used to go by J.J. Haley, and then he got confused with J.J. Yaley, so that's hence the name changed to Justin. You are correct. He is from Winnemac. He is from Northwest Indiana. And that is about 30, 40 miles north of Logansport, to kind of give you an idea as to where that is from.
I was wondering what was going on, because see, there are too many JJs and this and Justins,
right.
and I'm like going, what happened to
That's,
and then I would start seeing that name. I'm like, wait a minute, what was that kid's name?
Correct.
So,
he much like there used to be 2 Jason Williamses, or maybe like 3 of them in the NBA, and one became Jay Williams to avoid the confusion. Kind of the same thing. So when JJ Haley got to NASCAR, it became Justin Haley, because again, he was confused with JJ Yaley, who is still running in the Xfinity Series after some 20 or 25 years. So it's a long-winded way of basically saying part of what would help NASCAR at this facility is having an Indiana guy that has a chance to win. Chase Briscoe is in that group. He's probably in the second tier of drivers that have a chance to win the race, but it would be massive. And I think back to maybe it was the first Xfinity Series race that was run on the road course, and it was Briscoe, Austin Cindric, who is not from here, but obviously his father is, Tim, who's a Pike High School graduate who runs the Penske IndyCar operation, and then AJ Allmendinger, who again, not from Indy, but because he has run the Indy 500, because he was in Champ Car, because he has the karting background, is kind of adopted by the IndyCar community as being Google Gobble one of us. And Haley was in that mix too. So there was the first time, I think it was 2021, and the Xfinity guys put on a great show, and it was mainly guys that had ties to Indianapolis. That was a big deal. Because we are so spoiled and everything we get to do racing here in central Indiana, we are very provincial. We very much root for our own. And so if there is a guy that has a chance to win that has an Indiana tie, believe me, that would help the race going forward. The other big thing, I know you're bringing us at time-wise, Jim. The other big thing that would help is they keep jacking around with the date. They need to, and I understand that television is the revenue driver, frankly, for the facility. Because ticket sales have been down. It's been much more about what the television contract has given IMS, but this date has moved so frequently the last 15 years. And while normally you don't get the kiss from a weather standpoint that we're getting this weekend, with race temperatures being kind of in the mid 80s, what this race can't do is be run in September, because the Colts coverage just completely blots out the sun and nobody pays attention. So NASCAR needs to find a weekend and stick with it and make it Brickyard weekend in Indianapolis.
That, and something I asked Dale Jr. last year at the Indy race when he was here for the broadcast was, Indianapolis now, or the Indy 500 and the IndyCar series, has something that NASCAR doesn't but used to, and that is driver recognition. NASCAR was so well known because you had, first of all, you had characters. You go back to 79 when Cale Yarborough and Donnie Allison and Bobby Allison got in a fight in the middle of the race at Daytona for the win, while Richard Petty was going around to win it. They're out there fighting, and that pretty much put NASCAR on the map. But you always had characters. I mean, good God, could you go down the list? I just mentioned the biggest one of all, Dale Earnhardt. But even after that, you've had big names, Jeff Gordon, and these guys have Dale Earnhardt Jr., and they've all gone away.
Sure.
And there are so many young drivers now. I mean, it's these guys. It's Ty Gibbs has been racing Cup off and on for 3 years, and he's 21.
Right.
It's crazy.
The other thing that I would say too, and again, you heard me say this maybe off the air and not on the air. Actually, it was a separate conversation I was having right before I got on the show with you. Sorry about that. But when NASCAR first came here, it was such a big deal. And all of the manufacturer and sponsors would do these driver appearances and driver events leading up to the race. Like literally there was the Dodge drivers on the circle, or the Ford drivers inside of the RCA Dome. And those things don't happen. And again, when you're going to the place where you can't just roll out the trucks and show up and thousands will be there because you are the big deal in town, that's not the case here. There needs to be that recommitment to investing in this race by the teams, by the drivers, by the sponsors. And that has largely gone away in the last decade and a half.
We've also got the TBT this weekend.
Correct. And it's 10 blocks from my house at Hinkle Fieldhouse. So go check out the action Hinkle. And just as a friendly reminder to your viewers, TBT has existed in the ESPN sphere until this year. It's now a Fox Sports property. So if you want to watch TBT, go to FS1, go to FS2. That's where you will find it now the next 3 weekends.
I did not realize that. Thank you for that tidbit of info. Looking forward to it. Man, I appreciate you as always, Greg. I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you out at Indy.
All right, sounds good, my friend. And John, best of luck to you, buddy. I'll miss chatting with you every week.
Appreciate it, Greg.
We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Baylor Wilkin will join us, one of Indiana's recent football commitments. On the backside, as we're brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry. For our folks that live down in the southern Indiana area, Sellersburg, go see Dr. J and keep that championship smile rolling. Back with more after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
All right. You in comunicaciones with Mr. Wilkin?
I am. I've already sent him the link, but I was getting ready to
Text him to make sure.
Make sure I sent it first of all. We're sent.
There are many things I intend to do that don't happen.
Yeah.
It was sent. All right. So now I'll go back and go to here and go to there.
Hell, I could have kept going with Greg.
But I've got some basketball stuff to talk about. Dun, 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 come on, man. Oh, jeez.
Cheese and crackers. That's my that's my new thing. I try to say on the golf course now.
Oh yeah.
A lot. Cheese and crackers. Didn't have to say it as much yesterday, only out of a little frustration. It could have been
there you go.
A historic day for me. Good for 10-10. You good for 10-10, goof. Says you goof or 10-10. Nope, that's not what I meant to say.
Okie dokie.
All right. So you say he's coming on next segment?
No, he's supposed to be 10-10.
I know, but this is the 950 segment that we're coming into. That's what I'm saying.
Oh.
So he's going to be next one.
The following segment, yes.
Cool. All right, here we go.
Get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Hoosier Hanks East. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. It is Thursday, and it is going to be gorgeous. I hope you get out and enjoy the day. As, great sports weekend coming up for
people in and around the Hoosier state here, central Indiana, with NASCAR in town, the TBT in town. And it doesn't matter if you're a Hoosier fan, a Boiler fan, a Butler Bulldog fan, a Kyle Guy fan, as he's got a team in this thing as well. And that gets underway tomorrow night. And then it is a day off, day back on for the next round. There are 8 teams in the in the Butler region. And of course, that gets cut down for Sunday's games, which if Indiana and Purdue both win, which it is expected that they do, they will meet on Sunday. So it's going to be a busy day for me on Sunday out at Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Brickyard 400 in the afternoon, and then racing to get over to Hinkle Fieldhouse to cover that game between the Hoosiers and the Boilers. So lots going on, man. And hopefully this starts a little friendly rivalry in this. That is, Notre Dame is up next. They've got to come through with getting a team, probably a little more difficult for them, but not really. I mean, because none of these guys live in the area, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, Notre Dame up next. You're on the clock, Notre Dame. Time to get a team. So a little bit of basketball news for Hoosier fans. Where did I lose that to? As Jalen Harrelson, last week it was the 3SSB Adidas tournament going on down in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Now it's the Peach Jam that is happening down in North Augusta, rather. Jalen Harrelson, of course, one of Indiana's top 2025 targets, and pretty much up there at the top of the wish list, to be honest with you. Out of the 4 top targets that Indiana has, Jalen Harrelson, Braylon Mullins, Trent Sisley, and Malachi Moreno, he's probably the most coveted. And last night I was trying to think, okay, of those 4, it's probably not realistic to think that Indiana will land all 4 of them, just for whatever reason. I think 3 out of 4 is possible. Not probable, but possible. 2 out of 4 is definitely probable. And I'll be honest with you, the one that might seem to be the hardest to get would be Malachi Moreno, because he lives just outside of Lexington in Georgetown, Kentucky, growing up in the shadows of the success that Kentucky has had under John Calipari. And of course, now John Calipari at Arkansas, which has offered him. Don't see him going there, even though they're going to throw NIL at him. Indiana's going to do that. Kentucky's going to do that. It's going to come down to Indiana and Kentucky on Malachi Moreno. The thing Indiana has going for it is Trace Jackson Davis. It's Kalel Ware. Malachi Moreno can look at what has happened in back-to-back years with an Indiana big man going to the NBA, and that is going to be hard to ignore because it's a fact. Kentucky's got a new coach in Mark Pope. He does not have a list of successful entrants to the NBA, especially big men. I think Indiana is in very, very good position with Malachi Moreno because of that alone. But then you add in the fact that if Indiana were to get either Braylon Mullins or Trent Sisley, that helps as well because they are very, very tight. All 3 of those guys will be visiting Indiana in September on the weekend of the 20th together. That was done with purpose. You don't see that a lot. Not 3 guys. Can they get all 3 of them? They can. The challenges, first of all, Braylon Mullins' recruitment has just blown up. Now he has offers from Duke and Arkansas, UConn, Kansas.
Who doesn't he have North Carolina? Who doesn't he have an offer from that's a blue blood? UCLA is the only one I can think of. So that has definitely made it more challenging because the options are just gigantic now for Braylon Mullins. But maybe he likes the fact of playing for Indiana University, the thought of that, of being closer to home for his family. They can watch his games. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll wait and see. I know that he is waiting right now to pick his programs and dates of his visits that he will be making. And he is expected to make a decision by the early signing period this November. The same with Jalen Harrelson. It's said that he wants to have that done by the early signing period in November. Will Trent Sisley, he has said that as well in the past. I don't know that probably stays true. So, and then you add Malachi Moreno to that. I don't remember exactly what his timeline is, but I think he is also on that timeline. So if that is the case, at least fans will know by the beginning of the season around November, sometime in November. So there, it's just, this is probably and it's ironic now that we're in the portal era, but this is the most prolific class that Indiana could land in quite some time. The fact that Trent Sisley's rankings by the services are kind of wonky, really. And I think that is because he's got two other guys on his team that their profiles were raised. And so Trent just got kind of ignored by those that do that. But if do not sleep on Trent Sisley. I still keep seeing comments about his decision to go to Montverde, and I don't see what it's gaining from him. And I don't know why you don't have to know. He didn't make the decision for you or for me or for anybody else. He made it for himself. Why does it matter? Yes, it sucks for Indiana high school basketball. You're not going to get an argument out of me about that, but it is what it is. I mean, there's a lot of things in life that suck now, and it is what it is. We learn to adapt. It doesn't matter if it's just sports. Think about life. How many things in life have changed? Tons, everything. So that's just the journey of life, people. There's always going to be change. Are we going to like it all the time? Nope. Probably not even half the time, but we'll see. Kalel Ware having a good run out out west as well. We'll talk more about that. But want to get back to Jalen Harrelson, his Indy Heat team. You know, they didn't have a great summer run, but they have picked it up. And down at the Peach Jam, they lose their first game, but they didn't lose it to just anybody. They lost it to the favorite to win the Peach Jam. But Indiana Heat is building up. They currently sit 2-1 now after losing that first game. And two-headed snake of Jalen Harrelson and Jeremiah Fears, that's a wicked backcourt right there. The NBA level prospects, Tyron Stokes and AJ DeBansta, they play for the team that the Oakland Soldiers that knocked Indiana Heat off. But after that, Jalen Harrelson started getting going. He dropped 29 points on 11 of 23 shooting, 4 rebounds, while being guarded by Stokes, mind you, and DeBansta for most of the game. So he kind of put it on those dudes. They went into their second game 0-1, but would end up winning the next two. They beat PSA Cardinals. Jalen Harrelson, another double-figure scoring game in that one. Yesterday, they faced off against favorite opponent, Brad Beal Elite, in front of Bradley Beal himself. And while the Heat were down early, as much as 10 in the final quarter, they come back and get a win in that. Harrelson goes off again, 19.7 rebounds and an assist. They're back in action today against the New York Rens at 4:30, where you can watch their free live stream on the Nike EYBL website. So you can check into that. As a matter of fact, that'll be coming on after we're off in most of the on most of the areas, like Great Places, 1380 The Fan, Fort Wayne's only sports station, the voice of the region, WJOB, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, and our good friends at the Ref, always the right call, 97.7 ESPN in Evansville and wherever. But you can pick up that game today if you like. Khalil Ware, he's having himself a time in the. I talked earlier about Sean East, but Khalil Ware having himself a time so far and showing that he belongs since becoming the number 15 overall pick in this year's 2024 draft back in June. The Miami Heat, probably a great place for him to land. They see his talent. He's showing them his talent, and they're going to work to develop that. Ware has appeared in 5 Summer League games thus far, between the Sacramento and the Las Vegas Summer Leagues. In those 5 games, he is averaging 18, 8, and 1.4 assists, 2.5 blocks per game. And while he has eclipsed double-digit points in each and every one of those games, that's consistent play. GMs are, Pat Riley, he's not a GM, but Pat Riley is loving this. You want to talk about a motor? Please. He's doing what he needs to do. He's playing to make an NBA roster, which that's not going to be a problem for him, but he's playing like he has a long shot at the roster. That's not the case, but he's playing like that, which is what you have to do. He's playing like Sean East is playing, to be honest with you. But man, he's rocking. I mean, he's having a better go at it than say Trace Jackson did in his run through Summer League, it seems. But he has really just picked it up. And Khalil Ware is just going to be, he's a future player. He just has a lot of talent and size and wingspan and athletic ability. So he's looking to be a good one. He's averaging nearly a double-double. He scored 17.3 points and 8 rebounds a night, shooting efficiently at 63.5% from the field, 40% from behind the arc. And that's on nearly 2 attempts per game. So from a big guy, that's nice. That's a great start. Because one of these days, he's going to end, 5 years from now, when he is a more of a veteran NBA guy and he's bulked up probably a little bit, he'll be standing out there knocking down threes, but able to go into the paint and do damage in there as well. So Khalil Ware is looking to have a very promising career. And so congratulations to him. I haven't seen much on Miller Kopp. We'll have to check into that, but he has had the opportunity to play. And John Boy, I guess we're going to take a break, right?
Might as well.
All right, brother. Baylor Wilkin should be joining us in our next segment here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Hoosier Hanks East. Located over off of College Mall Road, stop into Hoosier Hanks for an array of great food. It's a great place to catch a game, catch your Hoosiers, or whatever you like to watch. You can order online at HoosierHanks.com or visit at 1285 South College Mall Road in Bloomington. Back with more after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market. I'm wondering if he thinks this is a phone deal, because I just sent him another message.
Did you send the URL, correct?
Oh, yeah, I sent that at 8:30.
You should know, I would think. I mean, but you never know.
Dude, it's a kid.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how familiar he is with technology like this. So, I mean, you never know.
Yes, Miller Kopp is, but I believe he will miss tonight's game or tomorrow night's game because of playing out in Las Vegas.
For the Summer League, no, the G League.
Do not expect to see Race Thompson.
Here we go. He's coming in now, Jim.
Am I in?
Yes, sir.
You're in, brother.
How's it going?
Great. How are you?
I'm amazing.
Are you using your phone?
Yes, I am.
I asked just if you can turn it sideways and it'll give us the landscape. And there you go. Fills the whole screen that way now. Look at you go.
Let me grab something to prop my phone up with.
Sounds good.
Man, you sound ready to go. I love that. No shyness. No, seriously. I mean, a lot of times people are just like, yeah.
I'm a little nervous, but
that's all right.
Dude, look, we're just having a conversation. It's all it is. Seriously, that's all. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm really excited.
Well,
sweet.
I am, even though I cover Indiana and all that, I try my best to just be neutral, but I have just been very bullish on Indiana football this year, man. I mean, I expect them to go bowling. I'll bring us up again, but I expect them to go from an 0-8 Big Ten record to a winning Big Ten record.
All right, here we go, guys. 10 seconds.
Chop Shop Steakhouse, Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Thursday. It is gorgeous. I hope it is wherever you are.
Oh, yeah.
Appreciate you being with us. Joined now by Baylor Wilkin, one of Indiana football's newest commits from Ohio, one of the cradles of football talent in our country. Baylor, first of all, thank you for taking the time to join us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It was only 10 days ago when you made your announcement of your commitment to Indiana. First of all, what was maybe the hardest decision as far as other teams that had your interest?
The coaches. I think I built a lot of relationships with coaches throughout the whole entire recruiting process, and so it was definitely hard to call them up on the phone before I announced and tell them, hey, I'm going to go somewhere else, or have that conversation with them.
Yeah, I can imagine that for anybody. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're young, absolutely. If you're old, when you have to deliver disappointing news, it ain't fun, and it doesn't ever get fun. But I can imagine. But your decision was made. Now going the other way, what were some of the things that convinced you, you know what? This is the train that I want to get on. This is the train I see moving down the tracks.
The new coaching staff. I think that was definitely one of the big things. I think every single coach except for Coach Bostad is coming in new. And I'm almost positive most of them are from JMU under Coach Signetti. And they all just want to flip this program around and win. And you can feel it when you talk to them all. And then Coach Bostad, he's an amazing coach. He sent I think 9 offensive linemen to the NFL. He's also coached tight ends and linebackers, I think, and sent each one of those positions to the NFL. So he knows football. He's coached at the Titans, so he knows what it takes to get to the next level. And I definitely say the strength coach. He had an amazing presentation when I went on the official visit there, and those were definitely some of the big things that helped me make my decision.
What about the strength program grabbed your attention? Because obviously every program has something, but obviously it stood out to you.
Yeah, I think the big thing. So he had a presentation for us, and he laid out everything. He had like a timetable of when we lift, when we take our like pre-workout medicine, after workout medicine, pre-lunch medicine, or like the supplements we need. And then he even showed us pictures, like before and after pictures of athletes, like when they first came in and then when they left. And then he showed us a picture of like the muscles and how they developed and got bigger. And then showed us how their times and their strength got bigger, or how they got bigger, stronger, and faster throughout the years of being with him.
Yeah, I keep the pictures of my muscles in a file, so we don't bring those out.
Yeah.
You're talking, of course, about Derek Owings, who followed Curt Cignetti from JMU, and you talk about the staff. His entire staff, not only did they follow him, they've been with him for between 6 and 9 years.
I know.
That's unheard of, first of all. In football, that's crazy not to have turnover. That is a great bonus. But then we get into the fact that there was only one coach kept off of the previous staff, and that was Bob Bostad, your direct position coach.
Yeah.
And that you just talked so much about.
Yeah. And so I really think exactly what you said, like it all speaks about how good Coach Cignetti is when you have that many coaches stick by him and stay with him throughout the coaching at JMU and then switching over to Indiana now. And then I think it also speaks about how good Coach Bostad is for him to be the only coach Coach Cignetti trusted to stay and also help turn around the program. And they also brought like 20 players over from JMU. And so I think that also shows how good of a coach Coach Cignetti is when you have that many kids fall over.
Definitely going to be a lot of continuity on that team with the staff and with some of the players. I can tell you, for someone that has covered IU football for a while, and you don't even have to cover it to know, that Indiana football has not been synonymous with winning. Although they have had some great runs here of late with Michael Penix Jr. and Kalen DeBoer when those guys were here, but it's consistently, no, it hasn't been. This is a completely different feel, even from a media standpoint, because of I can see things. I can see what's going on. I can see the stability in that staff, the continuity in that staff, the seriousness and business-like approach that Curt Cignetti takes, this wonderful schedule they have this year as well. But talk about Curt Cignetti and what it was like to be recruited by him and what you came away with as far as opinions on him.
I mean, he's an awesome guy. We on the OV, we went to his house and hung out for a while. But it was great to just be around him. But in our conversations with him, you can tell he truly believes he can flip this program around and turn it into a winning program like he did at JMU. And also, he's just he's a great guy. He's no nonsense, and he'll tell you exactly what he feels. And he wants to get in practice, work, get into the games, show him what we've been working on, and then get out. He wants to do what is needed.
And exactly. No wasted motions, no wasted effort, that kind of thing. What they've been giving you suggestions or things to do while you're waiting to arrive in Bloomington, because you have another year of high school ball coming up?
Oh yeah. I think we kind of took a little break from talking after I committed, just to kind of let me hang out with my family, since this whole recruiting process hit me pretty fast. Coach Bostad reached out like 2 days ago, so we started talking again. I think the big thing for me is just to continue to train and focus on my high school team, and try to put on a little more weight. But I'm gonna enroll early in the winter next year, or in the spring. So I'm hoping.
Talk about why that is so important. A lot of guys do that, and people see it, but arriving at a program mid-season, first of all, it will allow you to participate in spring ball next year.
Yeah.
But talk about the importance of doing that and what that does for you and for what you're trying to accomplish.
I think it's crucial for what I'm trying to do, because I want to go in there and I want to play. I don't want to have to sit around for 3 or 4 years and not play. But I mean, I get like 3 or 4 extra months under the strength staff. So that means bigger, faster, stronger. And then I get training from Coach Bostad, and then I get to learn all of the plays. And so when I have that extra 3 months or 4 months, I'm going to be more acclimated to what it's like. And I'm going to know a lot more.
Your school coming up this season, you guys, what is the prognostication for what you guys can get accomplished on your team as your final season?
You know, we have the parts and pieces to go a long ways, but we just need to put it all together right now. We lost a lot of crucial pieces last year, so we're still trying to figure out some spots we need to fill, but we're going to be good.
Ohio, like I mentioned earlier, one of the states that just produces tons of talent for high school football. Pennsylvania, Florida, Texas, California, amongst others that are at the tops. And playing in a state like Ohio, high school football is serious there, like basketball is in Indiana. But I've seen a lot of excitement from fans in regards to Indiana football, which is a great thing for a program that, like I said, has not exactly set the world on fire. But I look to Kansas, what Kansas has done. Lance Leopold came from this exact same situation that Kurt Signetti did. He goes to Kansas and they go crazy. Yeah. They're winning and they are scoring points. And that's exactly, I'm not saying they're going to do Indiana will do the exact same thing, but I was talking about their offense earlier. I don't think Indiana is going to have a problem scoring points. No. They have one of the best receiving cores, if not the best in the Big Ten coming up. A running backs room that is ample and deep, a quarterback room that is experienced with a more than solid backup, one of the best secondaries in the Big Ten. He's already put together a good team, and they've got to run on the 2025 class. Do you do anything? Have you done anything to talk to other potential recruits?
Not as of actually. I've talked to the other 2 offensive line commits we have. So I actually went on my official visit with Matt. He's another offensive line commit. He committed in February, I think, but I talked to him and Evan Parker a lot on Snapchat, and we just kind of talk, try to get to know each other a little more.
What are you looking forward to, Bo? I'm sure you'll be at a bunch of games this year for Indiana, or as many as you can make because of your schedule and whatnot. But they've got 8 home games, so you'll have plenty of opportunities.
Yeah, no.
Looking forward, and last thing, looking forward to eventually going to play at places like at UCLA, at USC, the Rose Bowl, Memorial Coliseum in Los Angeles, the Big House, Michigan, the Shoe over at Ohio State, Penn State, Lions Stadium, and all of these great, unbelievable venues, and you're going to be playing in those.
I know. It's always been a dream of mine. I mean, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I would have told you I'm going to play basketball at some college.
Really?
But, yeah, I thought I was going to be good, but I kind of strayed away and wasn't as good as I thought I was. But it's crazy to think, like, you grow up watching all these teams play at these big games, and you're like, holy crap, this is amazing, this is awesome. And I never really thought I was going to be able to get this opportunity, so it's just awesome.
I just thought of
be here.
I just thought of a great idea. Once you get here, you can get some other football players together, get a charity, or whether it's through NIL or whatever, and have a 3-on-3 challenge at halftime of an IU basketball game.
That would be awesome. That'd be awesome. I've been able to still dunk. So I've put on like 30 pounds this off season, and I'm still able to dunk. So I'd love that. That'd be awesome. I'm not quite the shooter as some of these other kids, but
if you can dunk it, you don't need to shoot, brother.
Yeah, I can get big in the post.
Well, Baylor, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. Hopefully we'll get to do this again.
Yeah.
And once you get here to school as well. But you've been great. You're awesome. You handled yourself very, very well. So that is always a plus as well. Thank you very much. Congratulations to you and your family, and look forward to meeting you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having
Baylor
me.
Wilkin, absolutely. Thank you. One of Indiana's most recent commits, offensive lineman Baylor Wilkin from Findlay, Ohio, joining us here. Big thanks to Shannon Griffith from Hoosier Tailgate, Bob Kravitz of bobkravitz.com, and Greg Rakestraw from the ISB Sports Network. Of course, John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines. And most importantly, each and every one of you, thank you so much. Tomorrow, another big show as we have Chase Briscoe joining us. Mike DeCourcy will join us. Alan Bestwick. Also, we'll see what else we can get scravenged up on a Freaky Fast Friday. For everybody, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.